Hey, honey,
Yes, Barry?
let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina en el viento este ritmo de palmas, sin ti naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I am your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination in the entire world. Maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants here in Puerto Vallarta. Those are the Lapa Lapa, the El Dorado restaurant, and at night for dinner, the El Dorado transforms into the ever-so-romantic Vista Grill, with the dramatic views of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in beautiful colors. And of course, at Lapa Lapa, you can enjoy that same view of the Los Muertos Pier all day long for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, seated with your toes in the sand, right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's just so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. This week, I have a great interview with Tracy Parks, and Tracy is the owner of Incanto. And Incanto it's just a wonderful theater. It's a piano bar and a restaurant, cafe, and you're just going to love it. But first, let's see what's happening in Puerto Vallarta this week, October the 7th, 2017. Let's just make a quick little note here that JR's meet and greet changes time this time of year. So as long as you're setting your clocks, make a note that the meet and greet at Kelly's Por Favor Saloon and Cookhouse begins at 5:30 instead of at 6:30 in the afternoon, now that we are out of the daylight savings time market here. I plan to be at a couple of those meet and greets for the first 2 weeks in January. So if you're going to be in town, I just might bring my microphones again and hear from all you guys about what you love to do in paradise. I'll be filling you guys in as the time approaches, but just keep that in mind. Once again, if you want to see JR, those meet and greets now start at 5:30 in the afternoon. I got a text from my buddy Edgar Cisneros, and he wanted to tell me about an upcoming event, the Craft Beer Festival. He says, I would like to let you know we're doing another festival in PV, and this time it will be Brewmasters, a craft beer festival set for November the 18th and 19th at the Cuale Island. I have a link to their Facebook page in the show notes of this episode, and I will see if I can get him to come on next week. So, Edgar, I'm looking for you. Come on next week. Tell us a little bit about the Craft Beer Festival in Puerto Vallarta. This is going to be a lot of fun. Now, last week's episode of the Dia de los Muertos, that particular episode, it actually seemed to hit a nerve with some of you guys. It's kind of funny how death and dying gets the attention. But anyway, I got an email from listener Dwight, and I thought I would share it with you. It starts, wow, what a podcast. I just love it when they start like that, you guys. Anyway, I saw the description and was expecting info about the Dia de los Muertos, which I got. Then a completely unexpected turn to actually dying in Puerto Vallarta. This was very informative and interesting, and I had always wondered what happens if you die in paradise. This was always in the back of my mind ever since seeing the film Night of the Iguana. At the end of the film, Okay, guys, hang on a minute. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Okay? Okay, now look. If you don't know how the movie ends, turn down the volume or just, go ahead and move forward 15 seconds, all right? Okay. All right. Stand by. 3, 2, 1. Ever since seeing the film Night of the Iguana, at the end of the film, the old grandfather recites his poem and promptly dies right there in Mismaloya, overlooking the waves. I thought, I wouldn't mind dying that way in a beautiful place with family at your side. In the film, the locals say that they'll take care of burying the body, but your podcast made it clear all the legal ramification that one needs to be aware of. Excellent episode. The line of the year, for $1,050 US, you can make an ash of yourself in Puerto Vallarta. I laughed out loud today on the 405. Take care, Dwight. Now, Dwight is a pretty cool dude. He actually lives not too far from me in Los Angeles. And yeah, we got to get together sometime for Mexican food here in town pretty soon. But he tells me he's going to Lake Chapala, and then he's going to follow that up with a couple days in Puerto Vallarta in the next week or two. So I'm going to have some dinner with him and pick his brain and maybe even get him to talk about his experiences in paradise and hopefully even a little bit about his Lake Chapala experiences too. So I'm going to be looking for you. Look out, Dwight. Here I come, man. Okay, so also I got an email from my buddy Skip up in Minnesota, and Skip writes, among other things, great job on Dia de los Muertos. For $1,000 to $1,500 US, I told my wife that if I should die in Mexico, I'm staying there. The $10,000 savings can buy our son and daughter a lot of airline tickets to visit Dad's grave. So, okay, so Dwight and Skip, thanks for the notes. I really, really enjoyed doing that episode. And if you guys didn't catch it, you guys got to check it out. Find out what happens when people die in paradise. Check it out. That was last week's episode. Now, listener Skip also sent me a long list of questions, and they're really good questions. So I'll take some time, Skip, and answer those questions next week on the air because I'm pretty sure that my listeners have similar questions. So next week, I have some great questions and answers coming for all of you, but hey, especially for you, Skip. So hang in there, buddy. Now, Natasha Moraga, I see, has laid her first tiles in Lazaro Cardenas Park. So the project is now really underway, but she needs your support, you guys. So I'm just reminding you that Christmas and the holidays are, well, they're on their way, and there are still tiles available for you to purchase. So make sure you go to www.tileparkpv.com or go to my show notes for this episode, and you'll find the links there. And remember, if you want to leave your mark in Lazaro Cardenas Park in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, you need to act quickly. All right? Also, they are selling those tiles, I understand. I remember she said at the Saturday Farmers Market. So if you are in town and you want to stop by and you want to say hello to Natasha, that's a great time to do it. So check her out, look for her, and get a tile. Okay, there is so much going on in Puerto Vallarta right now. High season is kicking into gear, and well, I could make this a 2-hour episode if I wanted to, but, a real estate agent that, me, needs to work and sell a couple properties so he can afford to hop on a plane and bring you all these cool things that are happening in paradise, right? So with that in mind, we'll just keep this to a regular length show, and we'll just get right to our guest. Last October, I saw this long-abandoned building along the Rio Cuale, just down the way from the watchmaker on the bridge. You remember him, Mario Rosette? Anyway, I spoke with him on a show sometime back about Mi Café Restaurant, remember? Well, just down the street from Mario's office and just up the street from the Belmar Hotel was this large white building. Really, it had been empty for a long, long time and waiting for a tenant. And lo and behold, back in October, I saw him working on it. And when I got back in January of this year, it looked like it was getting ready to open. I actually spoke briefly about it with Gary Beck back in January when we were talking about restaurants of Puerto Vallarta. And then once again in May when we talked about theaters and entertainment here. And so the name of the place is Incanto. Incanto, Cabaret, Piano Bar, and Cafe. And it's actually all of those things and more. And I'm really excited to introduce this place to you and the creator of this lovely creative space. His name is Tracy Parks. So let's go right now to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, to Incanto, Cabaret, Piano Bar, and Cafe. Hey, Tracy, thank you so much for inviting me into Incanto to talk with you today.
Thank you, Barry. Very nice to have you here.
Thank you. Listen, before we get to the interview, do me a favor and tell my listeners a little bit about yourself. What was your path to Puerto Vallarta?
Well, about 17 years ago, I was working in the offices in Lyric Opera in Chicago, and my boss, Paul Molinelli, said, Tracy, you need to go to Puerto Vallarta. And he didn't say much to me except for the memos and directives that I got. But he came out to my desk one day and said, I think you're going to like Puerto Vallarta. And I said, well, I've heard of it, and I'll look it up. So I did, and that a few weeks later, I had 3 days off, and I booked a trip here. And I stepped out of the cab onto the cobblestones, and I thought to myself, I've been here before. This is all strangely familiar, but also foreign to me. At the same time, I feel like I have been looking for this place my whole life. And so I just started trying to figure out ways I could be here more and more and more. And I schedule all my vacations here, probably much like a lot of people who end up coming here more and more, and then tried to figure out a way I could work here, live here, and started working with a friend of mine, Mark Rome, who opened and reopened the Palm Cabaret over on Olas Altas. And so I worked with him for a couple of years. He moved to Ajijic, and I took over at the Palm. Then I thought, it's time for me to sort of figure out where I'm going to live the rest of my life, and I know it's here, and I need to find a permanent space where I can expand and be more creative. And that's when I found Incanto. So that was 17 years ago to today, wrapped up in 30 seconds.
Wow, that's pretty good. All right, so tell us about Incanto. How did you come across that name?
It's interesting because we were contemplating what we were going to do next, and a friend of mine who helps here at the door, Renzo, and I were over in San Miguel de Allende last summer, I would say May, and we thought, if we do rent this space that we looked at, what would we call it? And the name Incanto came to his head, and the Spanish spelling, of course, Incanto with an E, which is not what we use. We use now Incanto with an I. But oddly, we came back a week later, walked out here on the terrace, turned to walk up the stairs, and looked on the side of the building. And the actual name of this little callejon right here that goes through our patio to the hotel next door, it's just a walking path, sidewalk, is named Callejon Incanto. Callejon Incanto. Oh. And after we had already come up with a name, we looked up there, and there it is. So then we realized that once we started putting our marketing material together, that there is actually a restaurant in town that's still open, although everybody and their dog told me it was closed. I even went to their website, and it looked like they were not in their Facebook page, and it hadn't had any posting. So I thought, okay, we're safe with this name. And then, of course, I didn't want them to be angry at us. So I said, we got to figure out how to make this work, because I love the name Incanto. So Andrea, who sings with the group Bohemia Viva, they'll start here in about 2 weeks. She's part Italian. She's from Argentina, but her family's Italian, as many Argentinians are. And she said, Tracy, you can fix this easily. Just use the Italian spelling.
Ah.
And I said, what does it mean in Italian? And she says the same thing. It means charming or enchanting. And I said, oh. And she said, but also you have the added bonus that Incanto is easier for some of the gringos that is largely our market here. They can say Incanto easier than Encanto, which is almost the same, but a little bit easier to read. Right. So it all worked out, and so far they haven't come over here and killed me, so it's good.
It's a cute little restaurant. It's right up the street too, so that's very interesting that it was right there. Yeah.
I was there years ago and loved it, and just honestly didn't realize they were still open. But anyway, I've only had one group come in here looking for the restaurant instead of the theater, and we promptly sent them to where they were looking for.
Good. All right. Good. All right. So you've really done a number on this place. Now, this place used to be like it was an old abandoned building for many, many years.
Yes, it was caught up in what I understand to be a lawsuit or difficulty in clearing the purchase of the building, and it was unclear who really owned it for many years. But about a couple of years ago, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and it finally was settled to the current owners, and we're leasing from them, and also really we have a purchase option in our lease, so hopefully we'll have this building in our hands as soon as 5,000 more people come through the door this season.
You'll do it. I know.
Thanks,
that'll
Larry.
happen. So this place is pretty crazy. I mean, you've got a theater here, which we're sitting in right now. You have upstairs. You have a piano bar, which is beautiful. It's spacious and just lovely. And then you've got this Riverside Cafe. So this is an audio show. Kind of describe, if you would, the place.
Well, it did. It started out as a big shell, a big white canvas back September of last summer. And we added levels in here and just turned this space here into a nice little intimate theater. And that is the thing I loved about the Palm, is that intimacy of just a 90 to 100 seat theater. You don't always get that when you're a performer. Sometimes the space is either way too big or way too small. But 100 seats is really what typifies cabaret, and that's kind of what we're doing here. Often we do operas, shows or whatever, but this still works well for that. And I love the acoustics. We had a Gio Ulrich, who is part of Duende, that'll perform here this season on Fridays. They helped me to design the sound so that we have lots of baffling and lots of cushioned absorbent surfaces so that the sound pretty much stays right here rather than bouncing around.
Nice.
So we like that. And then the piano bar is honestly just, I'm just so happy with it because it just feels so warm and inviting up there, and it's a little fancy but not too much, and I don't want anything to be pretentious. Like I just want everybody to be comfortable and feel like this is their space, and they can relax here. And I had some chairs made that were beautiful, but they're not exactly what I want. The backs of them are not comfortable. So this season we'll work on getting comfortable seating right from the beginning so that we have everybody happy and everybody comfortable.
So that is when you're sitting up in that piano bar, you guys, you get a nice view of the river. You can look out the windows. It's nice and airy and open. Just got a nice feel to it.
Thanks. Especially now we had all the trees trimmed 2 days ago. We've been waiting for the city for a year to trim the trees because you have to have a permit to cut all these trees are protected. Finally, we just went down there and said, what's the deal? Got them to say okay, and we just hired a guy, and they're all cleaned out, and now there's no dead limbs up there to fall into your coffee.
Oh, good. That's a plan. That sounds good. All right, and then the Riverside Cafe is you've got seating for how many out there?
We can fit 70 or so on each of the terraces if we put the right seating out there. It's kind of a blessing that that space is there because it serves as a holding space before our shows. When we're doing sound check, everybody has a place to have a cocktail before the show. The piano bar also holds people up there before the show. We always have our happy hour show on 5 to 7, music, and the happy hour goes 4 to 6. So they have a space to hang out before, and then they'll stay after. So it's turned into a place where you can literally spend all day here and be entertained or eat or drink and until we finish at whatever, 2 a.m. Typically, we're done by 12:30, 1 o'clock, but we're finding this summer that our audiences are staying longer and longer. So, we have a 2 o'clock license, so we'll be here until everybody's finished. And then we'll be back at 9 a.m. for breakfast.
Wow, that's...
I won't, but somebody will.
I was going to say, man, all right, that's a long day for you, Tracy.
I think I'm part crazy.
Well, I'm getting that picture right now.
No, we have a lot of great help here. That's the best.
Yeah, that you do have.
We have great
staff. Very nice people. I mean,
Thank
that's
you.
important. All right, so tell us about your lineup for the upcoming season.
Well, we have a lot of acts that have worked with me here in Puerto Vallarta for several years, and then a lot of new stuff. And I always like to mix it up with both. I love the standard shows that everybody falls in love with and they expect to see those, like, Bohemia Viva. This is their 6th season, I think, in Puerto Vallarta. They're over in San Miguel now performing. They'll be back in a few days. Well Strung is back with us after working with us at the Palm for 3 or 4 years. That's the 4-part harmony singing string quartet. And they're called Well Strung because they're rather hunky, and it sells tickets. And I think they've sold out every single show for the last 4 seasons. I'm not sure exactly how they did last season at the Palm, but here, when I worked with them, they sold out every season, and it sounded like they did the same over there last season. But we have a lot of local artists, too, that we feature in our piano bar, like Gabriel Reyes, who has an amazing voice, plays guitar. People who live here, like Chris Kenny, who's lived here for 20-something years, doing new shows down here and also doing piano bar shows. We have stand-up comedian Sean Polofsky. We have Natalie Douglas, a MAC award-winning cabaret artist from New York City, and her piano accompanist, Mark Hartman, who are coming back this season. Just a mix of stuff, and we do have locally produced plays. Elaine Perot and Cesar Bravo are doing Buyer and Seller here in December. We're doing Greater Tuna. We're bringing that back. We did that 3 years ago. So just a variety of things, mixing local talent with our visiting artists from the States, Canada, Argentina, wherever they may be. And it ends up being a nice mix. Oh, we have Spencer Day coming back, who's been performing here for years. Talented guy, who sent me a note a few weeks ago and said, please help me find local musicians to play with me. Because he can sit up there and play the piano and sing all day long by himself. He doesn't have to add, but he wants to add musicians who are local that sort of fuse the cultures. And, he says, try to find people who actually read music, but if they don't, I don't care. I just want to work with them. So that kind of energy is great.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Cool. So what would you say you like best about Incanto?
I like the comments that I hear from people that say that they like the space, that they like how comfortable they feel here, and that they like our diverse lineup. When people say that to me, it's just like they're handing me $100 bills. It just means it means more than money to me to hear that they're comfortable here, that they like it here, that they feel the ambiance, the energy. I find there's an energy in this building that's very positive and very creativity inducing. It just makes you want to do stuff. So It's great.
Yeah, you worked so hard putting this together, and I can understand why you get that great feeling when they say stuff like that, because you have, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Is it hard to get vacationers who are here for a good time? I mean, even locals, maybe even expats, to come to a play down here on the south side?
had that very same question when we started doing more serious things here in Puerto Vallarta. You know, the play we started off with, Greater Tuna, as a comedy, and a lot of people know it from the States, so you think, oh yeah, they'll probably come see that. But when Alain Perrault launched Equus here, a very serious show about a dark psychological story, that I didn't know that if that would work here, because I thought people coming on vacation, they're not really wanting to invest a lot of thought into what they're doing. They're here to drink margaritas and lay on the beach.
Yeah.
That's not so true anymore. People really do want to think, even when they're on vacation. And so as long as we don't hit them with something that's entirely too. Now they're doing the piano bar setup, so that's what we're hearing.
Oh, okay.
But as long as they hear something that is entertaining and well done and well thought out, they've gone for just about anything we've thrown at them. Anything that didn't sell well or do well here, there was a real good explanation for it, in my opinion. It either wasn't ready, or it was just absolutely wrong from the beginning. But people will take a chance with us. I think not only our venue but other venues have developed a trust in the audience that we will give them a good show, and they're taking chances to see things that are not just lighthearted fluff. They're coming to see whatever we throw at them: opera, classical music. We have a flute concert. We have a Grammy Award-winning cellist coming back this year. Don Moline from the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, Grammy Award winner. And that's something I didn't know would sell. I thought, who's going to come in here after the beach and sit and watch a Grammy Award-winning cellist? Well, it sold out both shows. And they sat there, because he wouldn't let us serve drinks during the performance, and they sat there without a drink and focused for an hour and 15 minutes, wow. And it was brilliant. And he is amazing. So yeah, they will. They'll go out for whatever we throw at them,
excellent.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dream situation.
It's great news for you. What would you say are your biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges are, I guess, the wonderful cultural clash that happens here between the gringo, Canadian, foreign expats, and the local community is wonderful. It's like the reason we're all here. We love the mixing of cultures. It's also sometimes the most challenging thing, because we often have misunderstandings due to the language or just the cultural thing, that everybody will come to work on time unless there's something going on with the family. If there's a family member somewhere that's suffering, don't expect anybody to call or show up, because that's first. And, we're that way sort of in the U.S., but you wouldn't dream of missing your job, even if your mom is in the hospital, without calling eventually. And sometimes it doesn't happen here, and then you just have to roll with it, But for the most part, everybody does just fine. And I guess that's the most challenging thing. I don't know, what else? I guess sometimes the unsuredness of what does the city want from us, what are all of the different rules about where can we hang a poster, where can we put this, where can we put that, and it seems to sometimes apply to all of us arbitrarily. Why can't we do that? Okay, and so we just try to just play by the rules, and hopefully that works. And so far, the city's been great to us and gave us no trouble, but that can be a challenge sometimes, understanding what are these licenses, how do I get them, and how do I renew them every year and every month and all that. So thank God we have an accountant who worries about that.
Uh-huh.
But
yeah.
I guess just the logistics of opening a business in Mexico can be a challenge. But so far, so good.
Yeah, well, it's a challenge everywhere, and it seems like, at least for now, you're flying right.
Thank you.
What does it cost to see an act in Incanto?
It varies. I mean, obviously in the summertime, you can see a show a lot less expensive than in the high season. And some of the acts we bring down in the high season command prices based on what they make in the States or Canada or something. And it's very difficult to say, this is basically the price. But generally speaking, our theatrical shows are around 300 pesos average, and then premium seating maybe 400 pesos. So say 350 is an average ticket price in the theater. And there's, of course, Well Strung. There's 4 guys, and they're fairly well known in the States. Their prices are a little higher. And then there are some acts who don't have to travel as much. They live here. They don't have housing expenses. They can afford to charge less. And just the whole dynamic of what people expect to make is different. Obviously, the scales are different in different countries, but we always ask the artist, what do you want us to charge for your ticket? And then we talk with them about what we think is right. And we get very few, if any, complaints, because I think overall, seeing a show in Puerto Vallarta is much less expensive than it would be anywhere else in the world.
Oh my gosh! Oh yeah.
And
you guys
the
are
quality.
Talking, you're talking, 300 pesos. You're talking about $18. It's not a lot of money, you guys. And what you're seeing here is fantastic. So
thank you, Barry. Thank you.
When you're not working. Remember, this is a family show. What do you like to do?
Okay, I'll give you that version. No, I honestly, when we leave here, there's a cantina down the street called Bar Frida, and those are my friends. And so when I have a chance to walk away from here, I usually go right down there and say hello to Tom and Louise at Bar Frida. It's a Mexican cantina with Mexican prices, but the biggest thing is there's a sense of family there, and so that's why I like it. And I'd love to travel. So if I have a few days off, I'll go to Guadalajara, go to Mexico City. I do go see my parents in Oklahoma at least once a year, sometimes more. They come down here. But I like to just hang out with my friends. And I don't care where that is, but I do love to travel. So I've been traveling in the summers to San Miguel and Mexico City. And I need to branch out. Hopefully next summer I can go to Panama or somewhere else.
Yeah. All right. Well, the places, the places you just mentioned, I love Mexico City. I went to school there. It was wonderful there.
It's a wonderful town.
Yeah, there's just so much history, just so much to do there, too. What are your favorite places to eat around the Bay?
Well, I don't eat too much, I'm kidding. I love to eat. It varies on my taste, but there's a couple of new restaurants that have opened. I went out to a restaurant called Tintoque out in the marina. And don't go hungry because the portions are tiny. But the food is incredible. And the flavors and the twists on things that they do in the presentation and the service. And it's one of the few restaurants I've been to in my life where you just walk out of there going, that was an dining experience, and everything was perfect from the beginning to the end. And of course we had to go get pizza afterwards, but no, it was good. It was very good. It's the typical, very gourmet service style where the portions are not great, but the flavor is amazing. So I think that restaurant will do very well. And I like this new one that opened up the street called Warwick. Really nice flavors, inexpensive, clean. Owner is right there on hand, and they're mixing the European flavors with the Mexican flavors. Really, really good stuff. Right behind the old Rizzo's parking lot where they're putting up those new condos. I like that place. And of course, I go to Fajita Republic like almost every other few days when I'm here because it's kind of like my city diner, Fajita Republic. That's where I go because I know I can get in and get out fast, and the food's good, and the management's great, and so it's a good choice. I don't know, where else do I go? I very rarely go out to eat. I mean, other than my usual little haunts, but there's tons of great stuff in this town.
Oh, it's just amazing.
We just went to Pepe's the other night, that Mexican tourist restaurant where they bring in the busloads of people.
Yep.
That food is really good, and those people are so nice. The service is amazing in there. And I had a margarita and a half, and I just got over it this morning. I mean, it's 2 days ago.
The mariachis that play there, too, are fantastic.
They're great.
They're great.
And they gave me their card. They want to come here. I said, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, because I hate when I steal other people's entertainment. I don't do that purposefully. But I would love to have them come over here and have a mariachi night. They were incredible.
Yeah, I was with Gary Beck the other night. We went to Pee-Pee's with Gary's groupies, and we all got together and had a meal there. So I'm with you. It's even though the food is gringoized, it's made kind of for the gringo palate. It's Tex-Mex kind of a thing going on there.
But sometimes you want that, because that's what we're used to.
Yeah.
And the plates
can't always
are
be
huge.
tacos. Can't always be. Yeah, the plates are huge.
And people come to Puerto Vallarta, and the number one question they ask me is, where can I get good Mexican food? And it's the hardest question to answer because we have great Italian food, great international cuisine. But if I had to say, where's good Mexican food? Oh, there's Fajita Republic, Margarita Grill, but more Tex-Mex. But Pee-Pee's felt more authentic than the others. Now, there's plenty of great Mexican food in town if you want to go to the local comida corrida type places for lunch. But it's hard to direct a tourist there because they don't always know how to order and they sit with other people and eat together. It's difficult. But good Mexican food, that's what we're missing.
Yeah, interesting.
Or more of it.
More of it, right? What kind of advice would you give to a first-time visitor to Puerto Vallarta?
I was thinking about that question earlier when you put it out that we might be talking about that. The best thing I could tell of tourists down here is stop worrying about what you're going to do when you get here, and don't plan and don't schedule and don't organize anything, because you don't want to be on a schedule when you're on vacation. Of course, you want to go to EncantoVallarta.com and order your tickets. No, I'm kidding. But you can more and more we do need to order ahead because shows do sell out. But try to come down here and take it day by day and go to the theater, box office, see what shows you want to see. Take it easy and go to the beach and sit there and do nothing, because that's what Puerto Vallarta is about. It's about slowing down a bit, relaxing a bit, and there are wonderful things to do here. And I would highly recommend people go to the Botanical Gardens south of town and then just see that territory south of town that's so beautiful along the highway there, and do things, but don't overschedule yourself, because there's so much just beauty in just being able to walk around and on the cobblestones and see how everything works here and just look at it and just be. That's what I would recommend.
Wonderful. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, because I do just the opposite. I plan all this stuff all the time, and when I'm done, it's like I don't have a vacation. And so that's a good tip, you guys. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners?
Well, I just want to say to people who know what we have been doing here and what the other venues have been doing in Puerto Vallarta, thank you for your support. I mean, thank you for coming out to see what we do, for buying your tickets online, for letting us know you're coming in advance, even though I said don't do that. But it's really nice when you buy in advance, because we know what we can schedule and what we're up against. And thanks for supporting Incanto, our opening season, and we're not even a year old yet. We've seen incredible the psychological support, not just the financial support, but the psychological support from our friends and fans. It's been incredible, and we appreciate it so much. And if I have anything sticking in my head, it's just a big thank you to everybody.
Well, yeah, it has been a great year. What a whirlwind! I mean, you just opened up a year ago, right? I think
Not
I was
even
here
a year.
Just
January 20 was our opening.
Is that right?
We signed the lease September and opened in January.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, incredible. All right. Tell people how to find Incanto.
Well, we do have our website, Incanto Vallarta with an I, EncantoVallarta.com. And we have our box office here open 9 a.m. to usually 12 p.m. And you can phone us. We can take reservations over the phone. We just ask that people come and take care of the payment at least 24 hours in advance, so that we, in a sold-out situation, we know exactly how many we have and how many more we can put in, et cetera. That used to not be a problem. I remember the old days when Mark Rome and I were working at the Palm. He his jean pocket on the right side was the money for the shows, and on the left side was his money. So he would say, okay, it's 50 pesos, and there was no change to worry about because it was always just 50 pesos, and all we needed were 50 peso bills, you know. And at the end of the night, he'd pull out how much money he had in this right-hand pocket, and that's what he'd say to the artist. Look, we have collected this much money. Here's your portion. And he would keep a little bit to keep the posters up. And it was so simple. And now it's a all-day job for one person or two people to handle the ticket sales and reporting and all that. And but we found ways to make it work. And so anyway, the website is our biggest tool. Facebook, we have our Encanto Vallarta Facebook page, which our good friend Eric, otherwise known in town as Beverly Fairfax, we're hosting Loteria this Saturday together. We only work together once a month because she can't stand me the rest of the time. But anyway, it's fun. We have Loteria. We raise money for the folkloric dancers, for the orchestra school across on the island, and it's been a lot of fun. So anyway, that's where you find us.
Yeah, and if you know where the old bridge is, he's on the south side of the old bridge.
Oh, you mean physically how we find
Physically,
it?
come on.
I forgot about that.
Right? I mean, I know you're online,
Yes.
but it's just, you know. So so what is the address if we go to the other side of that bridge?
We are on the south side of the old bridge, the original bridge on Insurgentes Street, and we're at Insurgentes 109. And if you're coming from the south and you cross the bridge into downtown, you've gone too far. We're on the south side of the bridge, right directly across from La Bistro restaurant. They're on the island and they face us, we face them, and they're open again.
Yeah.
As of 2 or 3 weeks ago, La Bistro is open.
Amazing.
So it's all this new energy and rejuvenation of this neighborhood, and I love it. Real estate office just opened across the street. We have the beautiful Garland's Hotel next door. I can't tell you how many of those hotel guests have stumbled in here, and we've made such good friends out of the Garland's Hotel crew. They're just wonderful people. Great hotel, by the way.
Yeah.
And so just this whole energy on this side of town is growing. And now they're tearing down the old Cinema Bahia, putting up, we think, condos. But if any building in Puerto Vallarta needed to come down, it's that one. It's all dark over there. The building is crumbling. It needs to come down. And then right in front is the bus stop. So that'll be lit up again so people can see when they're waiting for the bus. I just think this area over here has so much potential, and with the cultural center in the island right across the street, right across the water, we're seeing all kinds of wonderful ideas happen over here.
Yeah. Well, with you in Encanto, Puerto Vallarta is lucky. And I want to thank you again for inviting me and allowing me to introduce my audience to you and to your lovely place.
Thank you, Barry. And I love this new resurgence of the podcast. I think these are great. And these live forever, like you said, out there on the web, and people can hear it again and again and find it years to come. So this is great, and thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Whoa. Tracy, you are a real pro. And folks, he has built a real oasis right beside the Rio Cuale. You can sit there dining on a delectable breakfast, and you could do that while my buddy Salvatore Rodriguez, you remember Salvatore? He's the Liberace of Mexico. Well, Salvatore may even be there tinkling away at the ivories right there for your morning breakfast. It's just so romantic. It's just so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. Really, it really, really is. You know, I was getting ready to put together this podcast and the blog post of this episode, and I realized after looking through all the pictures that I took, actually I took 3 different cameras with me, and I checked them all out, and all those pictures that I took for Encanto had disappeared. They were just gone. I know someday I'm going to find them. They'll turn up, but I got to say I was just so fortunate to have my buddy and also my friend and listener, Bob McQuaig, from Kamloops, Canada. He was in town, and I was actually watching his antics on Facebook with JR. And he was hanging out at Cafe Roma and Bar La Playa, and he was giving tours of his economy digs at the Hotel Encino downtown. By the way, he out-cheaped me and even out-cheaped Cheap Debbie. He was showing this $34 a night room that he got right in the middle of town over at the Hotel Encino. And man, not bad. Very economical, Bob. You're a man after my heart. But listen, I sent Bob down to take pictures of Incanto because mine were missing in action, and Bob sent me some beautiful photos. So when you go to my website and check out the blog post for this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Show, several of those photos are Bob's. So thank you, Bob, for taking those pics of Incanto for me. And you can actually see some of his work. Bob actually has a couple of Facebook pages, Bob McQuaig Photography, and also Strike Eagle Productions. Those are both his Facebook pages, so you can check out some of his photography. And once again, Bob, you are an angel for going down there and getting some shots. Okay, well, that should do it for this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. Next week, stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with travel tips and great restaurant and excursion ideas and more. But until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to vallartainfo.com, that's JR's website, and reserve your tour through him right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition, my friends. His experience and his on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying, thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you were going to be using someone else, so just do it, really. And when you do take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And once again, if you like this podcast, please take the time and subscribe and give me a good review on iTunes if you would. That way we can get the word to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And remember, I made it easy for you to do just that with each episode I create. But look, if you haven't been to my website, you really need to have a look there. I have the links to all the places that we talk about. I have some great pictures and more right there in the blog posts and in the show notes for each and every episode of the show that I create. So check it out for sure if you haven't already, all right? Okay. So thanks to Tracy Parks of Incanto in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. You can get all of the links to everything that we talked about, as well as photos of Incanto, the piano bar, patio, the theater. Thank you again, Bob McQuaig from Kamloops, British Columbia. You are the man for stepping in and getting those pictures that I managed to lose. But you, sir, were there to save the day. So check out the pictures of Incanto taken by my buddy Bob. I have a link to Bob's work and photography studio and the show notes in the show notes of this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. So thanks again, Bob. Anyway, thanks to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for all of you to slow down, be calm, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
De Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar, samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. solo camino interno por la playa, me encuentro junto al río cuando todo está en calma. Pronto cae la noche, brillas Puerto Vallarta, samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar, samba de Puerto Vallarta.